Over the weekend, I watched the newest season of the Netflix TV show You, which aired last week, and I have a few thoughts. So I'm going to start again, spoiler free, and then I'm going to get into a few spoilers because there's some things that I want to discuss. Welcome to the newest episode of SDW.
Super Dario World!
Alright, so hopefully, levels look good, the internet looks okay. Hopefully you guys can see me and it's not too glitchy and not everything else. I'm in Mexico right now, so I don't think I've ever done it live from here. Maybe I did once, but I was like hardwired into that. I guess it doesn't matter. So, like I said, we will be talking about the Netflix TV show You, which I'm a big fan of. I've very much enjoyed the series so far. I liked the first season when it first came out. I was one of the first people to promote it, and so let's. I had some issues with this one, but I have issues with everything, so I guess that doesn't really matter. Before we get into it, though, let me just give you a quick reminder that any comments, questions, or suggestions, you can find me at Super Dario World on YouTube and on Twitch. Just hop on the chat. Any questions, you can just find me there and just ask me there directly. It would be the easiest way. Like right now, you can do it. Super easy. And it's also, if you want to send me something separate, you can do that on Instagram at DarioSDW or at Super Dario World. Like, subscribe, all that stuff really helps me out. And I always forget to say it. So there you go. All right. Now that that's out of the way, let's get into the TV show You. So for those of you who've never seen the TV show You, here's a quick little spoiler-free of everything breakdown. So just so you know what it is. It's basically a TV show about a stalker, where you are following a stalker in his mind. The narrator of the story is the stalker. So if you've ever seen the TV show Dexter, you know you're in the mind of a serial killer. Well, very similar, except here you're in the mind of a stalker. And kind of a charming guy. He's likable. He's Dan from Gossip Girl. He's a nice guy. He's a likable actor. And the character Joe is extremely creepy because again, he's a stalker. But since you're in his mind, he manages to, in a way, convince you. Well, the audience understands what he's doing because he's explaining absolutely every single thing that's going on and the way he justifies it. So you get to be inside the mind of a crazy person, and it's pretty interesting. It's quite an adventure to go through, and I like I said, I've been a big fan of the show since season 1. So there you go. That's a spoiler-free version of what the show would be. I highly recommend it. It's very enjoyable. It's 3 seasons. You can find it on Netflix now. Very good. If I have to rank the seasons, I think season 2 is better than season 1, and season 3, which is the latest one, is probably the weakest of the 3. And that's what I'm going to, again, I'm going to do like a quick spoiler-free of season 3. So again, if you want a spoiler-free thing of the show, that just happened, the whole thing. Now we're going to spoilers because I need to explain what set up season 3. So here you go. Season 1, again, he's in New York. He's following this girl, who's kind of like a loser or whatever. It doesn't matter. Let's say she's a very pretty girl, but unsuccessful. Season 2, however, he moves to LA. Our boy Joe moves to LA, and he starts following a girl who's actually very successful and who has her own issues and traumas. And the big reveal at the end of season 2, or closer to the end of season 2, is that actually she's kind of a psycho herself. And by kind of a psycho, I mean a total freaking psycho, on par with Joe. And she's also not afraid to kill, and she's killed people before. And she's kind of a wild card. And the only reason why Joe doesn't take her out and get her out of the way is because she reveals that she is pregnant with his child. And so they both move out to suburbia and become like a big happy family, whatever. But Joe sees it like a cage, like an imprisonment. And that's where we leave him off. And that, honestly, was a fantastic ending to the show. So if the show would have just ended there, it would have been perfect in many ways. So it's very hard to continue from that point, because it's a point where it's a satisfying ending in a way. People get their just desserts in a way, and also it's like one of those things where you're like, man, bad people sometimes, get away with stuff, right? So it would have been one of those endings. It's fine, but no, they had to continue on with season 3. And season 3, I have a few issues, and again, this is going to be spoiler free for season 3. My big issue, it starts off, I think, relatively strong. The first episode's kind of blah, but the episode ends strong. And the first saga, let's say, because it's divided into a couple sagas, The first saga is actually pretty interesting. It's pretty good. The second one, very weak. I did not really enjoy the latter half of the show. It was a little bit all over the place. A lot of things did not make a lot of sense. They didn't justify things the way they did in other seasons. The characters broke certain patterns. The surrounding cast was not as great as season 2. That's the problem. Season 2 had a bunch of really weirdos, but they were colorful and fun. Like 40 in particular. I love 40. I had this conversation recently with my sister, and we both expected that we would hate 40 and just hate him. And in the beginning of season 2, but then you're like, hey man, I like this guy. He's kind of neurotic and kooky, but I like the guy. He's like one of those lovable idiots. Season 3, well, first off, the main supporting character here, and I know a lot of people don't consider them, but the main supporting character, the new one, is the baby, who ironically is also named 40. So the baby here is what throws a wrench into a lot of things, plot-wise and all that stuff. And it bugs me that in the first half of the season, the baby is a legit complication, and in the second half, it's more kind of like an excuse. And they don't actually... Well, actually, they become terrible parents. Like, all of a sudden, it's like, oh yeah, I'll take care of the kids, and then you, like, leave it with somebody else for hours and don't report and go and do your weird things. So... at first, they were handling it really well. It's like they're actually, dealing with being parents and at the same time being kind of psychos, both of them. And it was, again, a legit complication. The other half was just like, nah, just, they didn't handle the baby well, particularly. And so that's the main secondary character. And it's fine, because sometimes it happens with a TV show where, as soon as the main characters have kids, the dynamic completely changes. The dynamic completely changed in this TV show. And it was, because of the kid, but it's also because of who Love and Joe are, the two main characters. Their relationship has dramatically changed, and it's kind of like a roller coaster relationship in many ways. It's like, okay, they're good, now they're not good. They're good, they're not good anymore. It looks like he wants one thing, no, it looks like he wants another now. It's confusing, it's all over the place. At first, it looked like it was going in a particular direction, and then out of nowhere, it takes a turn, and you're like, you didn't build up to this in the way you think you did, and it doesn't really make much sense. So, personally, I think that this has been the weakest of all the seasons, season 3. So again, I would go season 2, season 1, season 3, and again, it's because the surrounding cast may have been better than season 1. I remember season 1, the best friend was super annoying, everybody else was a douche towards Gwen, and Gwen was honestly kind of forgettable. Here, it's just a bunch of suburban parents who are a bunch of psychos and basically douchebags. And so, imagine parents who want to be influencers. It's one of those things where you're like, I don't relate to any of these people. Like, not a single one. I don't understand your lifestyle. I don't find it particularly interesting. I think you're all a bunch of creeps. I don't like what I'm seeing surrounding you. And I'll give it to them. That's kind of part of the show. The living in the toxic environment and all that stuff. And I get it. But it doesn't make for that fun of a watch when the main character's also being like kind of annoying because they're all wishy-washy and you don't really understand their motivations anymore. Or the female main character again is just all over the place. So you could say that it's because one thing's contaminating the other, but it doesn't make for a particularly enjoyable watch or a coherent storyline. So that's it's good. It's still a good show. It's just not as good as these. Again, it's really hard to continue from the point where you should have ended it and it would have been perfect. So that's it for the spoiler-free stuff. Now I'm going to go into specifics. So if you haven't seen the show yet, I recommend that you do. And if you haven't and still want to continue listening, well, that's definitely your choice. So here you go. My biggest issues with season 3. I liked that they threw us a curveball. I enjoyed it in the beginning. They make you think, like, at the end of season 2, they make you think, oh, he's going to go after the neighbor girl. And the neighbor girl was Rachel. And Rachel was kind of like, in a way, forgettable. You're like, oh, I know who this chick is, the chick who cheats on her husband or whatever. And all of a sudden, curveball, nope. This is what the season's really going to be about. Love kind of being a little bit unhinged, going a little bit unhinged, and which is fantastic because it's very interesting because the big complication of this season for Joe is love. It's kind of a game of chess, a game of cat and mouse, and that's perfect. That's fantastic. It's great. They have somebody who is on par with the other. It is phenomenal. It's very well done. I love that. I love that aspect of it. Because again, since you're in the head of Joe, you think everything that Joe's doing perfect. And then all of a sudden they show you Love's perspective and you're like, oh, he's fucked. She's been 2 steps ahead of him the whole time. And it's been very clever. So that little game of cat and mouse, really good. Very well handled. Very enjoyable to watch. And again, it was the first half, the first half of the season kind of went with dealing with the consequences of Love being, a little unhinged. And so I enjoyed that part. The part where Joe has to decide, hey, do I really want to be with this chick just because she's the mother of my child? Do I even love her? Do they even love each other? Going through therapy. That's enjoyable stuff to watch. That's interesting stuff to watch. They encounter the elephant in the room of the conversation where it's like, hey, you were gonna kill me, and the only reason you didn't kill me is because I'm a mom. So all the pressure, they revealed a lot of each other that you're like, wow, that makes perfect sense. Now I see the other person's perspective. I can understand why you're going a little cuckoo in this direction. I can understand this. I can understand what you're afraid of. All that stuff, great, well done, enjoyable to watch. Then in the second half, things start to go even crazier, and I don't really understand why. Because Joe supposedly was starting to do better. And Love supposedly got it all of her system, and she was supposedly starting to do better. But they do this weird little time skip in which, instead of them being better as individuals, they start getting kind of like sucked into the weird suburban lifestyle that they're in. And I don't get it. Also, I very much did not care for Marianne, which is the second love interest in this season. The girl that he gets obsessed with in this season, because Joe gets obsessed with a girl in every season. And so the girl that he gets obsessed with the second time did not follow any of Joe's usual patterns. With Gwen and with Love and with Rachel, usually it's the first time he sees them, he's like, all right, he's in love and he's obsessed. With Marianne, he kind of saw her like quite a few times. They worked together for a few months and nothing. You don't really see the relationship between the two at all. It's just being like, oh yeah, they both like each other. And the chick just has like a million red flags all over the place, at least to me. Like, let's see. Let me see. She's an addict. She has baby daddy drama issues. She has custody issues. She has a kid. All these things don't lead to what you'd call exactly a healthy relationship. Also, he has the major deterrent of, my wife is kind of a psycho, and she's going to kill you if I try to do anything. So I don't understand what Joe's doing. I don't understand it. First, I don't understand why he got obsessed with Marianne, because again, it's a blank character. They don't really make her out to be special. Like, Love was special. And Gwen was special in the kind of like you're young and dumb and there's a hot chick kind of way. But Marianne at this point is like, even Joe recognizes this is a mess. He actually says this, nope, I'm not going to touch this. I'm not going to mess up my marriage because I know I can see all the red flags. And it doesn't make any sense with the character of Joe, with his patterns. I just didn't get it. And then all of a sudden there's just a bunch of people getting kidnapped and dead bodies piling up, and there's no consequences really. Well, there are, but I'm not going to get into that. You're like, wow, this show's really become unhinged and for no reason. Usually, season 1, season 2, they had to be very careful with how they handled stuff. They're just kind of going buck wild. And it's really weird because they're in a city that has a lot of surveillance. So I don't see how they didn't get caught. Honestly, if they're being so reckless and they didn't get caught, doesn't make a lot of sense. There's a big fight at the end at their house. Between again, this is spoiler alert. Between Carrie and Joe and all that stuff. Carrie, all he had to do was run outside, but he didn't. He stayed and fought. which makes really no sense. The dude started playing, I don't know, started playing Rambo in the backyard instead of jumping the backyard or running outside and calling the cops or screaming for help. Anything. Like if anybody would have just screamed, they would have been saved. I don't get it. So again, things got a little bit too ridiculous, a little bit too out of hand. I don't understand why, because they were building something and then they decided, you know what, let's just do this crazy thing for no apparent reason. So overall, like I said, weakest season yet. The best one has been season 2, at least in my humble opinion. Season 3 was also season 1. Then it takes second place, and season 3 is the weakest one. So, fortunately or unfortunately, there's going to be a season 4. It's confirmed that the final episode that you will come back. I'm not particularly excited about it because of how things ended up and how it looks like it's going to continue going in the future. But you never know. You never know. They could end up closing things up with a bang or setting things up to be even more interesting in the future. So hopefully it doesn't suffer the same fate as Dexter, where, you know, after a certain point the show just sucked. But we'll see. It's hard. I don't see how you move on after Love, because Love was the perfect. Even in the season, she says, like, we're perfect for each other. And yes, they made for very fun television when they used them correctly. Afterwards, it's like, it was more annoying than anything else. So that's it. That's my opinion. I don't know what you thought. Hopefully you enjoyed it as well. I just realized that I don't have the music ready. Whoops. Well, how am I gonna do that? How am I gonna do the fade out without any music? Interesting. Well, I guess you're not gonna get any music today. Sorry. I tried. I considered it, but I can't. As always, any comments, questions, or suggestions, you can find me on YouTube and on Twitch at Dario. Just hop on the chat. I'm doing 10 a.m. today. I'm doing 10 a.m. on mornings. Tomorrow, I'm not sure if I'll make it at 10 a.m. Maybe like 10:15, 10:20, because I have a class, a Zoom thing at 9 a.m. You know what? Let's just say 10:15 tomorrow. Hopefully, because I already got everything set up here. It should be good. I shouldn't have any major complications. And or if you want to send me any comments, questions, or suggestions at any other time, you can do that on Instagram at DarioSDW and at Super Dario World. As always, thank you for joining me, and I'll see you again next time.